AF.
Still didn't pee.
Right? Oh, coffee's still here? Shit. Nice. Oh, man.
Angelo.
I'm gonna get some like fucking UTI. Just holding it in.
We need to invest in a box fan.
Yeah.
Avery.
I texted George Burke.
The next
Oh, hey guys.
Like my ninth grade
Can I borrow your
English
charger?
teacher?
Yeah.
When it's 20 minutes before close, make sure you put your dishes up there because they clean out the dishwasher before they close down. So they have to make sure they have all the dishes cleaned.
Yeah, right.
So.
We should probably get an early jump start on the breakdown process too.
Right. Oh, we're live right now.
Aloha, you're tuned into the Pleasant Podcast. Willow Boy's out in full force, dude. Out there skating, getting
We got
it.
some live video of us skating, dude.
Did you really?
We should have.
Oh, we should have. We honestly should
Close
have.
down the podcast and go get some more footage.
Just like, we'll be back.
And we're signing off.
Right.
Thanks for tuning in.
But yeah, this is a very special day because tomorrow is a very big day. Something different's going down in this neck of the woods, and that is what?
Is there a birthday in the audience?
No, there's no birthday in the audience. Well, maybe the first birthday of there being a fucking
Avery coming out.
Steen. You got me all flustered. Goddamn. A legitimate music scene in downtown Willoughby. We got Stop Laughing here. We got part of Not in the Daily. We got all of Mr. and Mr.
Fresh bucket.
I'm gonna say it. I don't know if you want me to say it. I don't know if you wanted me to say it.
Fair enough.
What-
isn't that hard.
What do you guys expect to see tomorrow? It's such a interesting gathering of youth.
Some tacos.
Illicit alcohol.
Probably not much because I won't be there till super late.
9 p.m.
Alright.
9 a.m.
p.m.-ish.
6 a.m.
I can get there before work.
Have you ever seen a music scene in this area before?
Kind of a little bit, nothing this organized, but I know Alec from Nameless, like I was in the Vagabond squad with him for a second, but I mean he's branched off on his own beautifully, I think. Nameless is kind of a hard search, but they're worth the listen, definitely. But I mean I was in Minimal Concern, I was in what's set on Survival now, except it was a lot more punk rock back in the day. It was, I'm not even going to tell you our name, it was so bad. But no, it's really cool to see everybody organized in like a collaborative, intelligent effort and otherwise. Like I've never seen that many rogue skaters in downtown Willoughby ever. You know,
Right.
so that was really cool. It's cool to see young minds coming together for a purpose. And I mean, I'm 20. I'm not too far ahead of any of you, but I mean, I've never seen that. Not here.
Luke just inserted a mocking comment, young, because he has a fucking grandfather complex where he thinks he's just like the overseeing essence of maturity in this group. Yeah, okay. He's 22 years old for crying. God damn it, Luke.
He thinks he's hot shit.
Yeah.
I've always been looked up to as a father figure.
By who? Please.
No one looks up to you, dude.
Probably you.
Me? Because I was
Younger
friends with you
siblings?
and I was a little younger?
You know what I mean?
We're all physically incapable of
Well,
looking up to
my
you.
sister, but you know, I'm not gonna get on top with my sister.
Keep roasting him for height.
I get that kinda. I got a mini-me at my folks' place. Like, she just picked up a lot of my shit. It's kind of bullshit 'cause she does it better than me 'cause she's a cute little girl. Like she laughs like me. She's just goofy. Like, 'cause, I mean, you know, I watched her enough, so we hung out a lot, I guess. So I kind of understand that, but at the same time, you got to be like relatable too to your peers and shit.
Yeah. Anyone else here like an older brother?
I'm the oldest of four.
I'm the oldest of four also.
I'm the baby
Dude, he has
child.
75 siblings. It's insane.
Something else.
You should have
Your
his own
dad
TV
needs to
show.
chill.
Yeah, being the older sibling is really strange.
It's like weirdly
I
stressful.
got everything so easy.
You're the guinea pig.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they fuck up, it's on you.
I'm the oldest three at my folks. Like I grew up with not three, four, and there's I have an older sister, but we're 10 years apart. Like, we didn't grow up together or anything, so I'm kinda the oldest. But I mean, I could learn a lot from my older sister. I still gotta do that, but. Yeah, definitely being the oldest sucks, though. Like, your parents test out all the right and wrong shit, and it's, yeah. They get it down by, like, 3, I think, the third kid.
Yeah. By the third kid, the second kid is just in a fucking rut, like because he's just yeah. He's by the time the oldest child is of age and has all these privileges granted to him or her, he's stuck in a position where he's doesn't have the privileges. But he's not being treated like the real baby, so he doesn't have those privileges also in a sense. Yeah, middle child, happy that's not my case, man.
That depends on how you grow up, too. But, I mean, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, though. You're looking at your older sibling, you're like, damn, I wish I was that free, you know?
Usually the youngest though start getting those privileges kind of earlier, I think. Yeah, like
because
like,
the parent by then's got it down.
Yeah, it's
so
like whatever. Yeah,
I don't give a shit anymore.
Also, I feel like it could also kind of go the other way, where like the youngest child, I don't know, however many older siblings, the parents kind of start giving up. It's just whatever, which could be good for the child because you can do whatever you want. But then if you
also
You get to explore, but explore what exactly?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Different corners of his mind.
I don't know.
I'll put the phone in.
Just to chime in, I guess, on that, I have one sibling, an older sister. She's 2 years older than me, and the gurgling coffee is distracting me.
It's like grunting, dude. It's like.
This is the run.
We have electricity.
I'm gonna go get more pot and I'll be back. Pot.
So, gang, what are we talking about right now?
Which one is this? Jonas?
I think we're in a
Over this way anyway, you know.
Anyone have any empty coffee cups? Really quick.
Empty. Oh, brilliant. You were doing great.
I gotta say, I'm a cute cleanup song.
The sugar cookies. Finesse one for me.
Oh, dude, I don't know if I can do all that.
It's a sugar cookie.
No, man.
I don't know.
That's a sugar
See what
cookie.
you can do.
You want help, man? I can bring some shit
Can
upstairs.
you hold this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys find a topic.
Are you done with that?
Yeah.
Are we still on?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still rolling. There's
Slight intermission.
a lot of chit chat.
Maybe we can talk about sociology.
How about we...
Eric, would you want to take it away on sociology?
Whether we grew up in a strict...
calculus class, bro. It's so interesting.
Calculus, you said?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Talk about.
Okay.
Actually, Jonas, earlier you on my little paper here, you wrote the word sociopathy. To you, what defines a sociopath, and what are some reasons someone could be seen or develop into a sociopath?
Sociopathic tendencies in general are like that whole. Has to do with the way you feel emotions, interact with people more so, and just it's not how to put this.
I've heard that a lot of sociopaths have problem with
Relating, probably.
with
No, like
no,
relating...
what is the word?
Empathizing.
Empathizing with
Empathizing,
people. Yeah. Would you agree with that? If is it a problem? I mean, and I've also heard that about psychopaths, which I feel like go kind of hand in hand. They are, outcasted from general society because they don't have an ability to empathize with people, so it can make their interactions with people somewhat strained and strange and unhealthy.
Yeah. The core difference between sociopathy and psychopathy is the fact that they're both categorized in a antisocial disorder, but psychopathy is where the person displaying those displaying the inability to empathize with other people or displaying the lack of willingness to socialize.
Sociopaths share the same trait. I don't know
Yeah.
if I missed that or not.
Yeah, we
I walked out at the wrong time.
Yeah. And then psychopaths tend to tend to show that they have ill intentions toward other people, and sociopaths kind of. It's a weird concept. It's hard to like really pinpoint.
It's almost like I feel like some sociopaths and maybe as well as psychopaths really have no idea that they are sociopaths. And I've also heard that as well as being somewhat antisocial, they're actually quite charming people, you know, and they because of their lack of empathy, they can use that charm to manipulate people in an immoral way. You know,
actually just reminded me of the answer. That's actually what a psychopath is. They're aware of their actions, and they're aware that they're manipulating people to achieve whatever they want to desire.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So would a used car salesman be considered a psychopath? I mean, a used car salesman, no, he's using his charm and his,
but
you know.
he doesn't like.
I suppose
telling false promises to sell, the product. Any salesman, really.
Those tendencies in his specific profession.
Field, yeah. I don't think they're going and saying, hey, using those techniques to like get somebody to do what they want outside of their profession.
I mean, human beings are still human beings, though. What is professionalism, really? It's something that we came up with. It's necessary in our world and everything, but like professionalism it's man-made,
Yeah, regardless of whether or not that's your job, you're still fitting that definition of knowing that you're manipulating people into doing what you want,
In that specific.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess if you set immorality, if you're trying to give them the worst car for a price that's clearly not what it's worth, I guess that could be considered psycho. Yeah, but if you're doing your job, and because I know that you might be trying to help somebody by selling them a used car rather than a new one, right? So do you think a normal person can turn sociopathic if they like stop caring about people so much, or is this some sort of condition?
It's
I feel like sociopathy as like a thing isn't like you don't change into one. Like you're like born with those like that type of personality, those personality traits of not having that empathy, not being able to really relate like that.
So it's like
more of like an inborn thing, yeah.
In the brain.
Like it's like how depression works with like your brain is literally wired a little differently. It's kind of like that.
That's interesting because you can kind of argue both ways. It's nature versus nurture,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like it's more of an inborn trait, whereas something like
well,
I can see both ways.
I also feel like that
it's hard to pick either way. Both sides, both arguments have like merit, definitely, but it's hard to pinpoint it for me. I've thought
I
about
feel
that
like
a little
they
bit.
could be like both though. Like you could be born with those tendencies and then have them exacerbated by your surroundings as you grow up and what you deal with. So like as you grow up, they're more exaggerated, I guess I would say.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say. Those sociopathic tendencies cannot be prevalent in your childhood, and if we all know, those psychological disorders can start to develop around adulthood. When your brain is fully developing. So, but I feel like everyone kind of agrees that those genetic predispositions are there. They don't develop.
Like that's why a lot of like mental disorders or like personality disorders are like inherited and genetic. They get passed down from like your parents or grandparents or whatever.
But do you think it's possible to develop a genetic predisposition towards a mental disorder, to be born perfectly healthy and be affected by some kind of mutagen so that it changes your genes to express that trait?
Well, it won't change your genes. It could change like your mental state and how your brain is wired, but it wouldn't be genetic. Genetic is like inborn, like from your parents and stuff. So like.
Your mental state is dependent on your genes, though.
Not completely.
Not necessarily.
You can learn things. You can learn to.
You just learn traits and ability, or not abilities.
I think the genome isn't entirely mapped out yet. Who's to say that personality traits can't skip generations? Or it's weird because like even this shit as simple as like everybody knows who Kurt Cobain is, Nirvana.
Right. No idea.
Anyways.
Refresh my memory.
No, but
no, I can't do that.
No, I cannot. But no, I can if you really don't know. But anyways, there's Dave Grohl. He was like in an interview saying it's weird to hang out and talk to Frances Bean because like friends will come over and they'll talk about Kurt or Dad, and it's like she's trying to be polite because she's already heard all this shit. Is what he was saying, but like, and so she's kind of turned off, but she's still trying to seem interested. And he said it was weird to like watch her behave, because I mean, how old was she when Kurt, and she had to be what, 2?
There we go.
And
Someone had to do it.
she has a bunch of like the same tendencies behaviorally and like social situations. Apparently, is what I got from that. So like, nature versus nurture is confusing, man. I don't have that mapped out, but there's a lot of questions, I guess. Not to exhaust the topic or anything.
For sure.
I feel like it could definitely come up without it being inherited, because if you look at PTSD, people aren't born with that; they get it.
Yeah, mental illnesses, especially something like stress disorders and like mood disorders in general, can definitely be caused by experiences and learned coping methods. I mean, like for example, like me being sick. I mean, going through that, I didn't go into being diagnosed with a disease, predisposed to depression, but going through a traumatic experience can cause an imbalance in your endorphins, and which will lead to developing a depression, at least in my case.
Same with addiction too. It's kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
you get into certain drugs and like I don't know how sensitive this topic is for this podcast or anything, but anyways, you get into certain drugs and like you're really psyched about the effect. And I haven't touched the big three or anything, but it's like you get addicted to kind of like moral objectivity. Like you can look at everything like with a plain head, sort of, and you're relaxed. Or it's like an anxiety type thing. Like what's a bad day if you have 3 tramadol? You know what I'm saying? But the same thing with your brain levels is it drains your serotonin, and you get more and more into like, well, I need to feel like that again, and then it gets to the point where you get anxious when you don't feel like that, and that's where like the whole like fiend addict kind of thing comes into play. But it's just your serotonin levels don't have the time to reboot, and a lot of people don't get that because they don't actually know the science, But if it's been 2 years for me since I've touched anything from Big Pharma. I had horrible experiences with it. I almost died a few times just because you're chasing it, and it gets excessive because you're like, I need it now.
Good for you, though, man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah,
that's why like people like drugs like ecstasy, for example. It's noted to have a really, really strong and pretty gruesome hangover effect when you take it, because during the experience you're so stimulated and you're experiencing so many positive euphoric emotions. You're using like almost like all of your brain's stash of serotonin and dopamine, and by the end of the experience, when you finally are able to crash and go to bed and you wake up the next morning or next fucking 20 hours, you get up and you feel like a depressed zombie, because you're just absolutely drained of all your resources that allow you to feel balanced and not depressed.
I believe it damages your serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It's not that your body can't so much make more serotonin, it just can't pick it up into your neurons, and if you do ecstasy or a drug like ecstasy a lot, it does affect your ability to take up serotonin, which can lead to it's like serotonin syndrome, which can be fatal. I mean, imagine dying of sadness, right? Like,
yeah, right.
That's gotta be.
People kill themselves every day. It's just like that.
Yeah.
Got Dan bringing us down dark side of the roast, a little thermos of some coffee.
Just finish this pot.
Speaking of drugs, let's all get our fix on.
Let's just move to the socially acceptable
Still
drugs.
caffeine slave.
Still a caffeine slave.
Everybody just kind of flipped.
Just get a little shot of warm.
There we go.
So how do you guys feel about the line we draw between conventional, socially acceptable drugs like caffeine and unconventional drugs like, prescription stimulants and, cocaine and methamphetamine?
I feel like big pharma drugs are more acceptable compared to alternatives like marijuana.
Same reason why alternatives to big pharma drugs for people without like insurance or like heroin. that's a huge reason why there's so many heroin addicts in Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely. People being initially prescribed some sort of opiates for a painkiller, and then all of a sudden they realize that they're spending a fortune on, their Oxycontin or whatever they're prescribed to. Can't afford that shit. You're putting yourself in debt. But all of a sudden you hear about some guy who can get you some dope for super cheap.
$20 a gram.
It's just like
Same as weed.
Why wouldn't I, man?
It's as cheap as weed, literally.
But the problem with heroin around here is more times than not it's cut with fentanyl.
More so in Akron right now than any other place,
So,
but yeah.
Fentanyl is lethal in doses less than a milligram. So
That always kind of confused me and blew my mind, like how people are gaining access to fentanyl and cutting it for some reason. That doesn't seem like a.
Dope dealers want to save a
opiate.
buck. Why? I mean, it's enhancing effect. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, why would I use more heroin if I can cut it with more of this? There's like elephant strength fentanyl in Ohio right now. Someone fucked up giving like a big guy a stash, and that's why there's so many overdoses in Akron. Did you guys hear about like 200 overdoses in like less than a day?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Or something
that was
astronomical.
insane. Yeah, such a short period of time.
And the problem with fentanyl is Narcan doesn't reverse the effects of that overdose. So
Exactly. Or anything pink for anyone who's curious in here. If you overdose on anything pink, you will die.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
There's a strain of heroin also, but like Molly. There's a strain of pink Molly that's out, and it's popular enough. But I think it's, I don't know the exact science of it, but I think it's just whatever makes it pink cancels out Narcan. It makes it a lot like weaker.
Oh wow.
But there's other opiate overdose drugs. I can't remember the other one. It starts with an S. I want to say like
Suboxone.
Suboxone. Yep.
Yeah, that's like your treatment alternative.
Yeah,
though.
that's
like
to wean people off of.
It's a
heroin dependency.
Yeah, it's like a. It's almost. I feel like it could be compared to like a research chemical in the sense that it's like a. A chemical produced in a lab made to mimic the effects of heroin, but without as bad of addiction or overdose potential.
But why is heroin from a lab more socially acceptable than heroin? It kills you kind of the same.
Because it's more pure. You don't have to worry about it being cut with other things like fentanyl or baking soda for that matter.
It's highly regulated.
But wouldn't it be cheaper just to essentially, really, guys, wouldn't it be cheaper just to farm a bunch of poppy? And I'm not at all an advocate for heroin use at all. My uncle is a slave to heroin. He's a crippling form of addiction. He's a genuinely nice person. I love him to death, but he's fucked. He's drained. His brain's fried. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, essentially, a lot of these people end up getting loopy on prescription painkillers, like for long-term use. It's just, the prescription is like, take this much and you won't die. That's basically what the dose is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's.
And sometimes those dosages aren't incorrect, for your body type.
Incorrect?
Yeah, sometimes they are incorrect.
Yeah, they're pretty generalized.
Yeah.
Definitely is an issue. Like, I personally have depression, so I was on antidepressants for a long time, and they upped my dosage.
Yeah.
And the effects were ridiculous with mood swings, manic episodes. It was crazy. So
See,
if they fuck it up,
that's
done.
the problem with prescription drugs. They make a designer drug to fix one problem, but the onslaught of side effects is so much greater than
I had constant migraines. It's not.
Yep.
Honestly, it's crazy.
It's nuts. There was actually a study done on SSRIs specifically, and it was proven that pharmaceutical companies released only 40% of the actual side effects that came along with certain SSRIs. I'm not sure exactly which one it was.
Probably the ones that fall into the statistical.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. They meet the statistical threshold to make it onto the market.
But why keep 60% so secretive if they do know?
So they can make money.
Yeah, so they can sell it. So they can prescribe it to people.
Commercials for drugs, they've got
That's
20, 30
psychopath right there. That is.
There's your psychopath.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they make this drug to appeal to people. Let's say depression, for example. You know, when you're depressed, it's like draining.
Mhm.
You know, absolutely draining. So like when there's a drug available to stop that, it just like all the like nulls everything out in you. You know.
Yeah.
It's a very weird feeling behind antidepressants when you're used to being depressed for years.
Yeah.
You feel it's not like a positive or like negative different. It's just
You just don't
different.
feel like really of
You don't
anything.
feel like yourself anymore.
Yeah, it's described as like a
That's what I was-
zombification almost.
Sorry, man.
This
No, no
dissonance between like what you're used to and like what you become. Like, people say you seem happier or better, but
Mhm.
at the same time you just don't feel like yourself.
No,
This is really weird. feeling.
Because it's like a disassociative.
Yeah, it's completely like your mental state is completely different, and it can be helpful, I guess, if you like it, if you like being that better, different person. But if not, it's completely like it's insane.
Like
That was the trade-off for me. I'm like eligible to be on antidepressants. Like I went to therapy and everything. I go to Beacon Health, and they've helped me talk out a lot of stuff. I feel like a lot more clear-headed. I feel like there's a big stigma on therapy, but I mean me before and now, you know, there's a difference enough. But Mark Maron, you know, he's a comedian. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Mark Maron, but he had the opportunity to go on antidepressants, and he did for a while, but it's just the creativity was gone, and that's the weird kind of
It affects
fight.
your whole mental state. It really does.
And that's what I'm afraid of. Like, it sounds great to be happier. That's completely appealing to me, but at the same time, I don't know if I'd be the same guy.
I don't know if you don't really feel happier. You act different, apparently. You do seem like you're happier, more positive, I guess, or what I've been told at least. But you don't feel happier. You just feel different, and then people see that as happier. In my opinion, 'Cause
Yeah.
I've been on 2 different kinds of antidepressants. I tried, I think Zoloft and Lexapro, personally.
Yeah.
And they mess with your mental state, basically.
Yeah, and there's been plenty of studies done, especially recently, in regards to how much of an effect do these antidepressants have on your depression.
The actual depression.
And you know, they rate and diagnose depression through the Hamilton scale, and it's a point-based system, and you take a survey. And it asks you questions like, are you restless? Do you not have the desire to be alive?
You lost interest in
yeah,
things you used to enjoy.
yeah, things along those
They have,
lines.
like impending doom.
Do you
And
wanna
they-
go to a rich?
And they look at people taking the antidepressants, and you know they did the classic study where they give. They have the control and the experimental group of all with people who have a similar score on the Hamilton scale, a similar range of depression, and they give one group a specific antidepressant, and then they give another group sugar pills to look at the placebo effects. And this went on for a few months, and the differences between the kids taking the sugar pills and then the kids taking the actual antidepressant, the difference that they and the results were based on the Hamilton scale. They had them retake the assessment and looked at their scores after both groups were done with the trial, and the differences were almost not even there. And it just goes to show it's trying to prove that antidepressants are not an effective way to treat depression.
That may not be necessarily true. You shouldn't ever underestimate the placebo effect. It can be a very strong
What
tool
about-
if it's used
Placebo
properly.
effect
Wait,
is very
What about underestimating your mind?
Yeah, but then
That-
which is really working? The idea that it's gonna make you feel better.
the idea that you're better, or that you're actually.
I
Gonna
mean,
be
you're
better?
getting a prescription saying this is going to make you feel better. So
Yeah,
why would
no,
you?
this-
Whereas that's probably a lot of
Because
placebo effect if
your
you think about it. You know.
expectations of a drug usually dictate how effective the drug is actually going to be.
Exactly, and what I'm saying, this experiment is focusing on the irreliability of SSRIs and saying that they are not an effective treatment to depression, to treating depression, versus say like cognitive behavioral therapy.
See, I feel I'm a huge supporter of medicinal cannabis, and I feel like CBD is a great alternative to antidepressants.
As
Hey,
someone who
man.
has tried both, I agree.
You've tried
Hey
CBD?
man, I'll
I've
smoke
tried-
a ball any day if I'm having a bad one.
The self-medicating
CBD
is a terrible like idea, but in like reality, like smoking cannabis to help with depression and anxiety really does help. Honestly,
Definitely, it's strain dependent, and it's difficult to really find the strain you need in a non-medicinal or recreational state. But it's pretty hit or miss. But if you find a good strain like Charlotte's Web, it's mainly CBD for children with seizures.
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen those
Can,
studies.
can I just do something real quick? Who in this room two questions? Who in this room at any point in their life has ever felt like they are either clinically or legitimately depressed? Just raise your hand.
So, majority of the room, minus
So 10 people.
3 people.
Oh,
10
Okay.
people out of how many?
no,
Okay.
I think it was 8 people out of 11.
And then who in this room right now would consider themselves clinically or legitimately depressed? Okay.
But depression
Two
goes
out of
hand in
11.
hand with anxiety.
It really does.
So if we should include anxiety in this. So
Who here thinks they have generalized anxiety disorder?
yeah.
I couldn't say that I have both. I would definitely lean more toward
Because depression
clinical
is
depression.
usually,
Not clinical,
you're
but-
usually led into depression by anxiety.
Yeah.
Fear of something, and then you're sent into an abyss of like nothingness.
It's kind of again the unknown. I mean, like you're scared of outcomes, but
Yeah.
you don't know what's gonna happen.
And
It's just
the terrible thing about like anxiety and depression is like they go in a vicious cycle.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
bad.
Yep.
You're anxious, throws you into depression about your anxiety, and then you have a panic attack about your depression, and it just
Anxious
keeps
about what you
going
need
and
to
keeps
do and you
going.
can't- Yeah, it's
you
terrible.
just
That's
find
just-
yourself.
I went
falling
through
into
like
the
a
void.
long
It's debilitating,
5 or
honestly,
6 year
yeah.
long period of that until I like broke free with meditation and alternative. Meditation does work if you really put some time into it.
If things that you think will work for you tend to work a lot better than.
I didn't have
I like
any faith
yoga.
in meditation. I was reading for ways to combat my depression and anxiety, and I just put some effort into it. Meditation does not come overnight. It takes a long time to get into like an enlightened type of state for you to see any real benefits.
So, how do you guys feel about the fact that when I asked who has ever felt like they have been depressed in their life, like, how do you guys feel about the fact that almost everyone in this room raised their hand? Do you think that depression is sometimes self-misdiagnosed, or do you think it's maybe more prevalent than people or the media portrays? Or do you think it's maybe just our general demographic of the fact that we're all very young?
Maybe a combination of both factors, I think.
I think
sure.
the definition of depression has changed throughout the years. What a lot of people feel now as depression was not generally accepted as depression, say back in the 50s.
or rugged
So a lot
individualism.
more people fall into the criteria now than before.
Yeah, no, I think with diagnosis,
Yeah,
diagnosis, a lot of people kind of just say, "Oh, I'm depressed" because they're feeling sad. Where I know it's like a really serious problem. Obviously everybody's felt sad a lot, but I know that it's not a crippling thing. So I think there is some misconception in that.
Where do you draw the line between legitimate depression and like a self-diagnosis like
That's
that?
pretty
Well,
interesting.
Really, the
so-
line is when it really interferes with like going about your daily life. When you start
Yeah.
losing interest in things, when you start stop talking to people, when you stop
The
enjoying things you used to.
The clinical definition for depression is a personal feeling of hopelessness combined with a lack of motivation and a lack of a feeling of purpose that extends past a 2-week period. And if it continues throughout that, and you take the Hamilton scale, which is the most widely accepted scale to diagnose depression, and you reach or you score a certain number, you'll be diagnosed. But yeah, I don't want to disregard the fact that many people do just self-diagnose themselves, and it leads to a lot of people just claiming to be depressed when, you know, they're just feeling a little down.
Do you guys mind if I say something on that?
Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm about to dismiss anyone with like legitimate depression, but I think you kind of just validated my what I was gonna say. My argument is that I think a lot of people underestimate themselves, and on that point, just share my own story a little bit, I guess. I mean, I've tried to kill myself a few times through like pills and alcohol. I saw how Heroin Bob died, so I mean, I was like, well, I can do it like that, you know. But I don't really consider myself a depressed person now because I've just think about the experiences I need to have or the people I need to be around for, and it's worth it. I think you just have to find something that really drives you and follow it. And I think a lot of people that get into that drone mind state or that settling mind state that was terrifying to me. I never wanted to experience that. So I decided to try and go out on my own terms. But I mean, on the bright side of that is I thought myself out of that pit, you know?
A lot of power just for yourself pretty much to do that.
It takes a lot of thinking. You got to think about everything from all the angles. Is it worth it? You know, you got to find out what's worth it.
Mm-hmm. And in regards to depression, it's also very common for people to actually have a period of time which extends over that 2-week mark, which would be an indicator for it. They'll have a really long phase where it's bad, and of course people go through the peaks and valleys, but overall in those peaks and valleys, even at your highest peak, you still feel the general symptoms of depression. But I think it's common for a lot of people to eventually get over it. But since you are already exposed to that state of mind and feeling that way for such a prolonged period, it's easy to fall into maybe states of mind for, you know, shorter periods that don't maybe reach past that 2-week mark.
Comparable to like a drug addiction, maybe.
Yeah,
If you're
exactly.
addicted
Think about
once.
this. How many times, even if you kick like prescription painkillers as like an antidepressant kind of thing, how many times like when you get bummed out enough do you think, man, I wish I had a pill right now? Like, it's been 2 years since I've touched any of that, and I still get that at work even. And it's kind of the evil of big pharma. Like, I mean, it puts that fix it in your pocket. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, it's just like
it's the same as alcohol or cigarettes for that matter.
oh, it's socially acceptable.
Socially acceptable,
Right.
forms of intoxication.
But why is
Any form of
alcohol more acceptable than pot? It fucks up your liver. But why is
But it did go through a short
Right.
period of
The only reason
prohibition.
pot was illegal is because it was going to fuck up the textile industry. We'd
Yeah,
be
it's
writing
just-
on cannabis instead of paper because pot was more efficient. It's still more efficient in like a lot of resources,
Well,
like
back in the early years, maybe
30s.
30s, it was used as actual treatments, as medicine in the form of tinctures.
I mean, everybody's heard of reefer madness, though, and that's just been going on effectively since the 30s. And science has proven that pot won't kill you. Science has proven 0 people have ever died from pot, ever. Unless the monkey chamber thing, that's a joke because they didn't have any oxygen.
Yeah,
it was
it just suffocated.
Yeah,
It
they
just-
suffocated. They didn't
Could
have
someone
air.
enlighten me on this monkey chamber
So
experiment?
They put. I'm pretty sure they put a monkey in a room with a gas mask. Am I right?
No. They filled.
I don't remember
I thought they
quite
put him
specifically.
in a cage, like a sealed cage.
Very
They
small
pumped it-
cage.
They pumped it full of pot smoke. Just pumped it. Just kept it
Right.
pumping it in.
Right.
Like
And-
sitting in a house
and-
fire.
Is this Harambe?
Exactly.
No, it's not Harambe. But-
Maybe Harambe's great granddad or
it came to a point
something.
Where there was so much smoke, and he consumed all the oxygen in the air, he died from suffocation.
Or just carbon
So,
monoxide.
from
from-
the effects.
And not from the fact he would have fell asleep before he. I don't know. I don't know how small this cage was, but
Or how anxious
and
he
that comes
got.
back
His heart
to
could have
correlation
exploded.
versus causation.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually a good point. Even like you said, like anxiety. Like goddamn, it's just a fucking monkey in a box being filled with smoke.
So he's just got
And this
smoked
horrible
out.
smell. It's
Especially if he
throat
doesn't
being
understand
burned
what's
up.
happening. If you walked into a room like, all right, I'll hang out in here for a little bit. Smoke everywhere. Crap, I can't
Yeah.
breathe. Like,
Yeah.
and people think themselves in heart attacks all the time.
So
All right, so I don't want to get like too personal, but like I feel like you guys are probably cool with this. When you experience depression, what do you go through?
Do we want to go around the table, or whoever
let's
starts
go around the
first?
table. I guess you just start. We'll go take it around.
Well, at my lowest points of depression, it was mostly just like, you wake up in the morning, fucking woken up by your alarm, and let's say it's a day I didn't have shit to do. It's a day where I don't have to do anything, and I wake up, and I'm just like, well, I don't want to get up. Social interaction just doesn't sound like my cup of tea right now. And you just like think about these things that you could be doing, and nothing seems worth it. You don't, and not only are you mentally not prepared or motivated to do anything, you also feel a physical toll on yourself. You really you don't even want to move. You're able to just lay in bed all day and not necessarily feel okay about it, but you don't want to do anything about it.
I don't want to leave my bed today.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty general example. I mean, and then you just go through your states of mind, like you almost, like, at least for me personally, I'll feel those symptoms of depression, and then I'll think about the facts that I'm feeling those symptoms of depression, and then think myself even into a deeper depressive rut, just because I know I'm depressed and I know I'm acting like a slob. I know I'm wasting time. Yeah, and it's just like, oh my God, and it just goes back and forth, and then it just exponentially grows into like this. Oh, like, Jesus Christ, this is overwhelming. I don't even know what to do. I just want to go to bed, and that's when the anxiety comes in too, and your heart starts racing, and then it's a mess. It's hard to really like put words to it.
It really is.
You just go back to sleep and start over.
But with the anxiety, you're so on high alert that you can't sleep properly. You wake up feeling even worse than when you went to sleep.
Yeah, and that's
hence more addiction. What'll put you to sleep? What'll get you out of that?
Depression. It just keeps hitting you.
I'm sorry, what was that you said?
Kind of more towards more addiction. What'll put you to sleep? What'll get you out of that? Everything from alcoholics to any kind of drug addict,
Right. Anyone else?
I mean, my sister, like, we recently found out that she's going through that.
Microphone.
Sorry. I recently found out that my sister, we recently found out that she has anxiety and depression. I've never really looked too much into the topic, but this is really good to kind of get an understanding of what it's coming from, because, like, at first, like, we didn't know what was happening. Like, all of a sudden, she's just, like, super down all the time, and then, like, anytime we would just try to get her to do something, like, she would just get pale white and just start freaking out, and, like, she's passed out a couple times. So
wow,
she just turned 12 years old too. So,
wow.
So it was very sad to see that, because she's like, I don't know, like, one of the most, like, creative little kids I've ever seen, and just to see her just, like, get, like, so low, it's just...
It's the curse of an artistic mind.
And I feel this is a side effect of, like, school.
Yeah, well, that was her big thing. That's actually, like, what I think started that, because
they're forced into, like, a standardized, like, system where creativity is cut off. You're not allowed to be yourself. You have to get good grades on standardized tests.
Yeah, that was my exact initial thought when this first started happening, because, like, this first started happening like 2 or 3 years ago. It, like, she had, like, one, like, really awesome summer, like, just, like, we did so much, she's doing all this kind of stuff, and then, like, when it came to school, like, just, like, bawling, screaming, like, could not do it, and I'm just like, shit, I really feel that. Like, and then it just eventually having to go through that cycle, like, she knows now, it's just like, that's just not her thing, is all that. But luckily she's in middle school now, she just started, and she has art club, and she's taking an art class there, so that's kind of what she looks forward to
It's
a lot.
good to have
so,
some sort of expressive outlet.
Yeah.
School is important for education, like so we can all sit in this room and have an intelligent enough conversation, and we're all like in our early 20s or under. So that's impressive, but at the same time, I think school also has a very dehumanizing drone standard. Creativity is frowned upon. Think about, I think I said that already, but like definitely a shining example of that is my point, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's that common saying that everyone always like points to when standardized schooling is talked about nowadays, and it's the whole, you can't judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree.
Right. Like the only way you can make progress in any field or the other, especially a new one, is deviating from the standard. I mean, think about any great thinker of their time that was demonized, but like think about in the same way we hold like what they were actually researching to be valid, like Galileo, because he had anything to say against the church ever. He was on house arrest for like a very significant portion of his life, but some of his theories and like ideas are still celebrated in science now. You learn about that shit in school. People know who Galileo is, and he lived in the 1100s or something.
Yeah, I mean, with school, you're expected to have literally any kid from ages 5 to 18, if everything goes well and you succeed and go through every grade consistently. And people vary. It's common sense. Not everyone is the same. In fact, no one is the same, except in like the paradoxical paradoxal.
That's a word. Yeah.
Okay. That the paradox between in standardized schooling is the fact that you take all of these individuals and put them into one exact regimen and expect them to go through and achieve the same results.
Right. And the paradox of that is if we're going to further ourselves as further humanity, how are we going to do that if we don't think differently ever? Like, there's got to be new ideas for better things to happen.
Yeah, and with a system
different
like
thinkers.
Loops that are all around, nothing new kind of can, especially when new ideas are kind of frowned upon. It's like, no.
Yeah, demonizing intelligent conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right,
Not
so
to interrupt, sorry.
Yeah, no, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but stop laughing. We're gonna be on our way out now.
All right, it's good having you guys.
Yeah, no, this has been really great, and wish you guys all luck tomorrow. It's gonna be good.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be able to see you guys
Likewise.
perform, but I hope you guys are still there when I show up.
Yeah, for sure.
Bands
Yeah,
around here
I'm
need to start taping sets.
We are playing second.
Definitely.
Playing second? All right.
They're not playing till 9:30.
Matthew.
You're not getting off work till 11, right?
M.
Yeah.
Moody on Facebook.
Well,
I messaged one of our teachers from high school.
Yeah, I know. So smart town.
Yeah. So I mean, shit, I might be able to see him. Anyway, so long, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you. Stop laughing.
See ya.
Great bunch of guys.
Or earlier.
I think another problem with school is college.
Oh,
So-
the stigma of whether or not you go to college.
Yeah, being forced to choose a career path so early in your life.
It's almost by design. It's haunting.
It's terrifying to have to make such a large life decision before you're, even in your mid-20s.
I was just thinking about that not too long ago. By the time you're a sophomore in high school, you're being asked like what you want to do until you're at least like 65 and retire.
Well, for us, it's 72 retirement.
Okay, my point proven even more.
So-
We did stray a little off topic. Jonas,
I just
we-
want to conclude really quick though. In conclusion, she's doing better now. I don't know if she's on antidepressants, but she is on a medication. I haven't seen any like altercations of like her personality or how she's acting. She seems kind of back to normal, I guess, so to say. But Yeah, so far she's doing really well. So now as soon as she started school, we got her sketchbook, so
That's good.
she's gonna be not
wish-
paying attention in class and drawing. So that's
Hey
good.
man, I wish the best for her though.
So back to the college.
Well,
Yeah,
we
it was
were
good.
going around the table talking about like
Oh, yeah, that's
depressive.
right.
This went everywhere.
Yeah.
That's how this podcast always goes.
We're gonna go till 9:45.
9:45. What time is it now?
We got 5 minutes. It's 9:40.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Gotta make it quick.
All right.
They close at 11 tonight, you know.
Oh shit.
Do they really?
Never mind.
Really?
All right, we got time. We're good.
It's
All right, sit.
It's Friday. 10:45.
Hey.
Hey.
10:30 preferably, so we can back up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
checks
My
out.
bad. My bad.
All right, Jonas on his experience with depression.
Depression. I've had personally, I've had depression and symptoms of it since as long as I can remember, dating back to second grade. Getting out of bed has always been the hardest part of my life in general. So I totally get where Nick's coming from with the whole waking up, just don't want to do anything. I totally get that, and it took a lot for me to so the thing with mental disorders is you don't think you have them. It's you trick yourself into thinking you're fine when you're not, but you don't want to tell yourself that because then it's an issue and you don't want to deal with it because you're depressed. You don't have time for that bullshit.
Plus the stigma, if you make it known for help or anything else, you're
Yeah, actually,
a whiny millennial.
right?
Perceived as weak.
I've actually
you know?
found that
Yeah,
people
that
have
too.
been very supportive of it and with it. So that's cool. But yeah, just that whole don't want to do anything, and then you don't do anything, and you feel bad because you didn't do anything. And it comes back to you I should do something, then you don't want to because you know you should, and you know you want to, but you just can't. That's kind of how I always put it. You have to get out of bed. You have to go to school. You have to go do whatever, but just you don't have that effort, that to go do it, and it's just.
Yeah. You always have that conscience in the back of your mind,
You should be doing
telling
stuff,
you the
yeah.
logical thing that you should be doing.
Why aren't
and,
you doing this,
And
basically?
you're always able to think with reason, except the only issue is that whatever voice is telling you to stay in bed always tends to be stronger with
So
people in
much louder
It's
depression.
sometimes.
it's like the weight is on your body.
It really is.
Like you're being pinned down.
You gotta tie logic and passion together. Whatever makes you passionate, you have to think
But
logically
that's-
about.
Depression is
a-
you lose your passion.
Yeah, you
Because
lose
I have no passion,
all
for example.
logic, and you're reduced to this shell.
You basically
Mhm.
you lose your passion for stuff. Your passion for to go out and do stuff just goes away, kind of. And it's kind of okay, how I see it. You know how your emotions go up and down on a wave. The way I see it, the baseline center for that for people with depression is just lower. So your highs are still highs, but they're not as high as normal people's, and your lows are worse.
Yeah, you're always at that depressed threshold
Your
though.
baseline-
Your
your
highest
baseline is
peaks are
lower.
still depressed.
And even if you,
My bad.
and even when you are in that high emotional swing, when you're at a good emotional state, in the back of your mind, you're just wow, I'm actually really depressed, and I know that this good feeling
I
is
should
going to
feel
leave
like this
very
all the time,
soon.
yeah.
And I know that tomorrow I'm just going to wake up and be even worse than I was, So
Yep,
it
and
just kind
it's
of just
almost
kills it.
it's almost like when you're experiencing a peak in your mood, like
know
like
you're
you
Just
were
like a
saying.
drug
It
addiction.
kills it almost.
When you're high, you're
You-
I'm okay now, but I know,
I'm
in a
gonna
couple
come down.
hours I'm going to be fucked.
It's kinda
Exactly.
the whole fiend mindset.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. You're.
Yeah, it's you're almost too afraid to enjoy your highest
Back
states
to
of
the
mind just
Mac
because
Mar-
you're afraid to
or-
get
Become
used
your
to
own
Not
it.
to interrupt, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. What's up?
Just back to the Mark Maron thing. I think you were the one that chirped about knowing him, but every now and then he'll kind of joke about it, hey man, it's that voice in your head that's how are you gonna feel 10 minutes from now? How are you gonna feel an hour from now, tomorrow? And
Are you
that's
still gonna be? Yeah, I totally feel you.
Or Vern Taylor. Does anybody remember Vern Taylor? He was this cool dude from my high school. He was a deaf kid, but he was pretty intelligible for deaf. Not I don't want to say that. That sounds bad, but he was pretty. His spoken vernacular was pretty well. He didn't have to depend on sign language, and he was a skater. He liked a lot of stuff, but he was a punk. I can't say he was a punk rocker, but he always did his own thing. He was always cool. He was always supportive. He was the first guy that ever told me about Fruity Pebble flavored weed, But this same kid though, he was a slave to that. I found out later, all throughout high school, he was a gigantic pill junkie / heroin addict. Did anybody know about the Fenimores?
I don't.
The Fenimores /
It's a restaurant, right?
Johnny.
I'm not saying anything that's not already on public records. I'm trying to guard some names, but Yeah, Joey Finnemore. He's a cool guy. I jammed with him once. It was just one time, but he was really cool. I thought he was a really nice person. But at the same time, these are the same people getting locked up for their desperation. Like, he got caught stealing some shit from a car, and like, a lot of people would look at that article and they're like, wow, it's just another whatever.
Yeah,
But
wow, what a disgusting piece of
But I
society
looked at
put
that
away.
and I was heartbroken, because I was like, this beautiful, intelligent person that I came into contact with briefly. I'm not going to pretend like I knew him, but I had a few encounters with him, and I'd have to say it was pleasant. And so I thought of that, and I was like, wow, it was a really human experience. Or my own uncle going to jail for that kind of thing is just desperation. But I could sit down and have a conversation with him about, just like I'm talking with you guys about the odds and ends. You know, it's like they're still people. They're just they got the crutch. My crutch is cigarettes, or coffee or weed or beer or whatever. But it's just a socially unacceptable crutch. Honestly, I think we should go to, I want to say it's Portugal standard, or like just.
It's not legalizing, it's actually decriminalization. So if you're caught with it, you are in trouble, but you don't go to jail, you get help instead.
Right, it's not like, I can
That's the way to go.
be a
It
junkie
really
and
is.
it's okay
It's
now.
amazing.
It's like, no, but if you seek the help, it's there. You're not going to jail to dry out and possibly die from the shock of your
Yeah.
withdrawals.
The justice system won't give you cold turkey.
So, back on the depression, I believe Eric was up next.
Well, were you finished with your thought, Jonas?
Just about. I mean, the antidepressants as it's like a whole, having tried them, I don't want to say they don't work, because they might help someone else. Like, it's my personal experience, but for me, they didn't do much.
Yeah, and I mean,
the physical
with
symptoms can be really extreme. Like, I had like migraines, nausea all the time. It was so bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and with what we were talking about, ineffectiveness with antidepressants, that is by no means like to disregard them as
Yeah,
a medicine.
totally.
I mean, there is a reason that they are the most widely accepted treatment for
Exactly.
depression.
Like, if they
It's
do work
just,
for someone, yeah.
it's not ideal, and there are more studies being posted daily, or not daily, but I mean, as time goes on, showing that there may be better options.
Yeah, of course. Do you have anything to say on this, Diego?
Yeah, so my personal experience with depression has never been particularly incredible or spectacular or anything. With the way Nick and Jonas described it, pretty much hits it right on the head. I feel like a lot of people tend to have a common experience with depression, and as
At least
for
one
me,
that's easy to share.
That's the one I share.
As for me, though, I definitely have struggled with depression at some points in my life, but thankfully, it was never for an incredibly prolonged period of time. I did experience like very, very low, periods, maybe like a week or two, where I was in that, just heavy, vicious cycle of that depression. But I did always manage to kind of, work my way out of it, So I guess that's really all I have to say. I definitely feel like I have experienced it, but it's never been like a prevalent force in my life, which I'm completely thankful for, and I just feel like I can really empathize with, people who, do struggle with it.
One thing I kind of forgot that I want to bring up is the whole, like, thinking you don't have it. Like, your mind kind of tricks yourself into thinking you're... Because, like, you don't want to admit that you have it, because then, like, I don't know, it's weird when I put this.
Once you admit that to yourself that you have it, you've accepted it, and you can let it manifest and grow into
basically.
something.
It's kinda like
Is it? Do you get afraid of the stigma?
There's definitely a stigma.
All the questions.
No,
I'm
that's
interrupting
actually
everybody.
a good thing. Is with depression, you have to acknowledge it, and
If you don't acknowledge it, it
have
just
to-
keeps going.
Yeah, you have
So,
to
like, you have to
acknowledge
get
it and accept that it's a part of you for that moment. Let it do its thing separate from you.
Yeah,
Let
you
yourself
can't.
And
pulled
and
away
that's a
from
big
it.
point of meditation. It teaches you to separate your thoughts from you. They flow freely without judgment. I mean, easier said than done.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course.
Because, like, it took me probably a solid decade or so to really like think, damn, I should probably like, because I really got to a point where it was interfering with like doing schoolwork. I just straight up wouldn't do like big projects. But I would know I had to do it and just not do it. I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
That's why bother,
Come back
you know.
and ask for it, but I guess I got to the point where I didn't care anymore.
There's so many times that you're appointed with responsibilities, and it's so easy to just like ask yourself, like, you know what, like, what's the point? Like, I'm just gonna do something that I can potentially enjoy while I can.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Responsibility is cool, but there's more things in life, like getting your dick rode all fucking night.
It's true, but
Okay.
With that MC Ride quote, even though quite vulgar, I do think that was a terrible segue. But
I was gonna say,
that was
damn,
a
maybe.
terrible segue. But what are some ways? What are some natural ways that you guys can think of that can wean people off of depression? Whether it's a creative outlet or meditation, what are some ways you guys think people can genuinely, like, naturally get out of that deep crater of depression?
Social
hold
support,
up,
I would
first off,
say.
do you have any
go
more
for it.
things to say about having depression?
Yeah, we never really finished the circle.
Yeah, I just came back downstairs and I was like,
We're
damn,
gonna
we've been
come
talking about
back to that.
depression
That'll come
for
back,
like
but Luke,
X
you're
amount of
gonna-
time.
So my depression wasn't. I definitely had it, but the anxiety was more prevalent than the depression.
Yeah, I got you. I definitely.
The anxiety was crippling. But it started my freshman year, so 2008.
Yeah, gotcha.
My first panic attack. Didn't know what was going on. You know, heart racing, couldn't breathe, chest was tight, sweating everywhere. Thought I was dying. Thought I was having a heart attack. Emergency room. Okay, this ingrained like an image in my mind, like associate anxiety with like death.
Yeah.
And from that point on, my life was completely changed. You know, before that day, you know, I'd go to sleep, wake up super refreshed, you know, just felt great. And then, like, that day after, I still have not had a refreshing night of sleep. Like, just, I wake up and I just feel like shit still, you know?
Yeah.
But, I did go through from my freshman year to my junior year was like crippling anxiety, you know. It got to a point where we call them safe points or safe zones, where I'd have to always know where the exit was in an establishment, and I had a hard time going in like crowded areas like the mall.
Yeah.
There's so much overstimulation because when you're constantly anxious, your body's in a state of like fight or flight.
Yep.
And it's draining, absolutely draining.
Mm-hmm.
So
when I was dating Bailey, she had a very similar deal. Bailey had a really bad anxiety issue, and you know, funny you said like you had to always know where the exits were in an establishment. Like for example, when we were in restaurants, she would get anxious. You know, it was like you said, really stimulating, not necessarily in a positive way. So whenever we are in a restaurant, she would always have to have a seat where she can like visually
see
look at an exit,
Yeah.
so she has like a plan of escape in
Yeah.
case something happens. You know, because she would just have episodes where it would get like too much for her and she'd freak out.
Yeah.
And you know, she always just needed to find a way to escape.
yeah, when you're in that type of mindset, I mean, your body is prepared to fight off like a potential attack to yourself, like death.
Right.
And when you're in that kind of elevated state, you know, adrenaline pumping through you, all your senses are heightened to max.
Right.
So like smell everything, you hear everything, everything's so loud, it
Hyper-aware.
drowns out everything.
That's interesting because that, like, the only way I can relate this is just the things I've seen with my sister, and like before she was diagnosed, like she did have a big episode in the mall, like there was one time, like, you know how they had that bouncing shit in there.
Yeah.
Like she was like thinking about going on that, and then like she just like took a look at it and then just turned like pale white.
Yeah.
And then just had to sit down.
Because all the blood is being like
It's racing into your extremities.
Yeah,
so you can
it's
run.
being sucked from all your
It's almost like shock.
non-essential organs to like your muscles, everything that you need to like, so you're ready to run or fight. You know,
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, it's your
response.
parasympathetic nervous system just kicking
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
and
it's just going full survival mode.
And what happens?
When you're
Yeah,
in
it just
that, when you're in that
increases your
state
heart
for an
rate.
extended period of time, you get adrenal fatigue or adrenal fatigue, and that leads to depression in itself because all the hormones that keep you balanced are drained. Your body has no time to like recover because the cycle continues. And the crazy thing is, it's like it's mental. You cause it yourself. I mean,
Debatable.
you can. The loop is you continuing to give into it. You have to step back and look at the situation. But when you're faced with that kind of a fight or flight response, it's really easy to lose control, and you just got to go.
Yeah.
That was one big thing.
It's so hard to break away.
It is.
Her therapist had told her is just to kind of you can kind of take control of that feeling. A little
You can
bit.
take
just gotta
complete
keep-
control if you.
Yeah.
Big things that come into play here. Control your breathing. Because your breath controls everything. Really, if you control your breath, you can control your entire psyche.
Can I say something in a minute? Not to cut anybody off, just to announce the idea flowing, I guess. Alright. As far as getting yourself out of anything, I don't think I can confidently say I have clinical depression because I haven't been faced with the lowered bar. I still have a lot of aspirations, dreams, I guess. But I guess I've definitely given in to myself. I didn't have my first anxiety attack till I was 20. So I think I thought myself into it, but at the same time, as far as my whole situation goes, I used, this isn't news and in this podcast, but I used drugs to help me get out of it. And eventually, like you were saying, you got to step back from the situation and separate yourself with logic. Well, I really didn't master that skill. I can't even say confidently master, but I didn't really acquire any bit of that skill until the last 6 months to a year because Crystal Rhodes, she's a great person with a beautiful mind, but we had different goals. So I was thinking for a long time, like, I probably got to go. But I didn't want to do that because she was the person that got me sober. I went to her house to dry out. She was compassionate about the situation. She knew enough scientifically to give me muscle relaxers, I guess, so the shock wouldn't kill me. But and for a while I was scared to break away from that compassion, that knowledge. But for me, continuing to deal with it without that I don't want to say crutch, but without that help, without that someone in your corner is listening to the voice, and maybe it's in the back of your head, but they say trust your gut, the voice in the pit of your stomach that says go forward, pursue what you love, whether anything, whatever you love. For me, it's music, talking to people, just new experiences. I mean, but it's still a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
So I can't complain.
I wasn't here for part of it, but how has everyone in this room gone through an anxiety attack? Who here has gone through a true anxiety attack?
Absolutely.
I've never looked into what
Can somebody describe it to
So an
Sebastian?
anxiety attack, have you ever had like an adrenaline rush?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same feeling, but you lose control of like whether the situation is within your control. So like you get like overwhelmed with all the sensation, all your senses are heightened. So just like imagine being in an adrenaline rush that you're like, I don't know, skydiving, and all of a sudden you like get tunnel vision, you start shaking, your heart's pounding super fast, and you're just like terrified.
Or you could say like you're like on a roller coaster and you're in that adrenaline rush, but you get off the roller coaster and you're still
you're
in
still
that
there,
adrenaline.
you're still in that
It's like the realization that like you are fine, but you're like, oh, why am I freaking out right now?
Yeah.
Like you know that you're freaking out, and that freaks you out even more. And you're like, why
Yeah.
the fuck am I freaking out?
It just layers
That's-
upon
And
that's-
you're
that's
just
a-
like,
that's
what
a-
is
that
That sounds
happening
like
to me?
something that's familiar that I've that has happened.
So it's like, yeah, just like keeps building on itself, and you just like, what is happening to me right now, and you don't know what to do with yourself. You know?
Yeah. So and it comes back to your breathing. When your breathing gets out of control, you know,
Your whole body is just
because you're not breathing properly when you're in that state anyway. So you're starving your body of oxygen.
I was just gonna say I don't think I've genuinely experienced one. So for me, this is a very interesting perspective. Yeah.
You two count yourselves lucky, man. It's fucked
it's
up.
like having a heart attack. It's
Really
terrible.
terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. I would never wish that type of fear onto anybody.
You almost. It's not losing control. I mean, kind of.
No,
is.
it definitely is
And-
losing control.
Yeah.
But I did want to finish up with a depression story.
Yeah.
So where did I even leave off?
How your anxiety led you into depression.
You said your
Yeah,
junior
so-
year, like from your freshman to junior year, it
Yeah.
was just uncontrollable.
During that, my anxiety was definitely uncontrollable, and it led me into a deep depression during that period, to a point to where I couldn't sleep. I'd stay up for like 72 hours at a time, and I'd start hallucinating.
Right.
And you just can't sleep. And once the hallucinations start happening, it just throws more anxiety in your place because you don't know what you're seeing. Like nothing happens in your direct line of sight when you're hallucinating. It's always in your peripheral. So you'll see like things moving, like black figures moving, and then like your first thought is like something is trying to get me.
Yeah. And it's almost just like, did I just see
that?
I feel like I just saw something, and I think I did. Like, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, and the fact that you even have to ask yourself, like, did I just hallucinate
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
fact that I've been up for 72 hours? And, like, you're thinking about the fact that you've been up for 72 hours, and at least you think that you just had some sleep-deprived hallucination. And, once again, the layers just keep building on themselves.
Yeah.
You keep asking yourself these questions, just like falling into patterns of negative thought, which can just lead into a complete panic attack.
So at the height of that depression was definitely the hallucinations and paranoia, probably borderline schizophrenia, to be honest. And then I put some real effort into trying to find myself out of that hole. So I started meditating, and that definitely got me somewhere. It brings you, I don't know, like a sense of peace or serenity. It's like, Avery's familiar with meditation, so it's definitely like.
Yeah, it's like I know I'm weird, and I know I have issues and shit, because I still wouldn't say that I've had extreme anxiety issues, but being at, like, we were still stemming off of like depression. I think we were talking about that earlier, or maybe it was even yesterday. It's been so long. But like you guys know, like I don't really sleep that often. So like,
yesterday.
Yeah, hence yesterday. And like I even wrote songs about it, as Sebastian knows too. It's like sometimes I'd end up just staying up almost on purpose for the sake of being mildly entertained. You know what I'm saying?
Getting slap happy.
It would be like before I really read into what exactly I was doing. I already don't eat that much, but I would like sit in my boxers in the lowest part of my house with like no carpet, you know what I mean, like all cement, and just deal with these weird shadowy figures that are everywhere.
So that's what I would experience.
And then like, but doing it intentionally. It's like I didn't feel scared. Yeah. I felt like excited and jumpy, but for whatever reason, I still had extreme anger problems. But the way that I sort of channeled it was just like, whatever's gonna get me is gonna get me. If you touch me, I'm gonna end you. That basic thought. Even if this was a large, like I said in the song, like a millipede figure or a large shadow person or these weird shadows going around there, I would find it just interesting to me to tap into that weird part of my head. And then once I realized that sleep for me was like a genuine problem, I didn't really know what to do. But I wouldn't say that I've still had like an anxiety attack.
But that's
per se.
interesting.
I would seriously like do it either intentionally, or like I know there's a certain point to where it's like I need to really turn off my phone and force myself to sleep, because there have been a few times where I dozed off while fucking driving, and it's not safe.
So
that's
cool,
interesting
and
though,
not
because
safe.
like
what I was doing was essentially a makeshift isolation tank. If anybody has read into that in forms of
An isolation
meditation.
tank. Do you know what that is?
Is that a form of like classical conditioning, maybe unconsciously? But do you feel like maybe you have like a better sense of like yourself, or like maybe what you're capable of doing
So
to
an
protect
isolation-
yourself?
An isolation tank is essentially a tub.
That's probably too deep or anything.
No, I'll because what you're both asking are two different tangents right now.
Yeah.
I thought you didn't know what an isolation tank was.
Oh no, I get the concept. I haven't
okay.
delved
Oh,
into
okay.
the science, but
But then what were you asking?
as
now?
far as the isolation tank thing goes, like a lot of people, like in this room, they're saying, they're scared of the black figures. But you specifically said, if I'm gonna deal with the black figures and whatever's gonna get me is gonna get me. But if you come to get me, I'm gonna end you.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because that's like a different mindset. It's a very
It's very hard to explain where that whole thing came from.
but it kind of
See,
attributes
well,
to your self-preservation, your willingness for self-preservation.
I think.
I was gonna tell you where I think I got the idea.
I think
from
it stems from aggression.
Yeah, basic aggression. Because, like I said, well, you guys all know, if you guys are just not tuning in, I don't drink ever at all. So, like, even when I go to visit people at house parties, they're like, "Come on, no, do a shot." Then there's one of my closer friends. They're like, "No, seriously, he does not drink. Stop trying to force him to drink because that's just not what he does." You know what I mean?
So-
Because people in my family were very, very heavy alcoholics. I'm very, very used to being very aggravated and offensive most of the time, not necessarily even defensive, but just like I'm just gonna go out of my way to fuck shit up because I'm really like we did that whole other segment on how my anger used to get really out of hand. That was my whole trying to figure out. That was me, I guess, finding myself, just forcing myself into these apparently scary situations, what people would find scary situations. Of course, I wasn't gonna like stand in front of a fucking train, but I needed a controlled environment. And before I even knew what an isolation tank was, like I said, it was just like, you know what is kind of freaky, I guess? I used to see these weird shadow people, so fuck it. And then I researched like hallucinogenics and stuff like that, but I didn't trust them. So it's just like, what's a natural way to hallucinate? And then like at like 2 or 3 in the morning, I was
Stay up
like,
for days.
I was just like, oh, I know what it is. So like one random Friday, Saturday, Sunday bit when like my parents weren't even home, turned everything off, turned down the heat, and it was like winter time, so just shaking there, and just like Luke described, which is why like I really resonate with Luke because I know as a fact that you have seen this because that's exactly how it is. You never actually really make eye contact with this shit.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it seriously is out of your field of vision. If you really try to focus on one point and allow it to come in, you can kind of make out what it is.
Yeah, it mostly just dissipates once you try to focus.
Exactly.
on it.
Or when you try to look at it, it'll keep going.
Yeah, it's like
off to
the
side.
swigglies in
Yeah,
your
like eye
eyes.
blobs.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but like I said, though, I would still go into it with the intent of just, it's like, I don't care if I am a human. I don't care if you are, honestly, it was like, I don't care if you are God, a deity, a dead family member. I'm going to fuck you up, all right? I don't care if you take me down. I'm taking you down with me. This, like, weird, almost suicidal, like, tendency with myself that I started to just get used to, I suppose, which is why I guess I never had that anxiety problem. So yeah, like what Luke said, it was always this like base, like you said with the scales and like like where it would sit. Mine was just aggression. This is only sitting on 2 bar stools.
I know. I keep forgetting. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah,
tables.
yeah. But it would definitely reside just like right there, and that's why too. Like when I played at that Stone Tavern in Kent, I got into a for real fist fight at a bar, and I got hit with a fucking bottle. Got punched in the face by a 40-year-old dude. I was 18 at the time. It was the same sort of tactic. I'm gonna play this show. And I'm gonna get in everyone's fucking face, even though I was a one man. As you guys remember, Minimalist, the whole thing. I was a crew of one. I'm gonna load in
Jim Morrison.
I'm gonna load in my amps by myself. I'm gonna do this show by myself. I'm gonna leave by my fucking self. And that's exactly what I was going to do until one day, literally got the sense kind of knocked into me.
Yeah.
But it was still that intent. It was like, this is a 6 foot tall biker dude. It was like, I don't give a fuck. And what I genuinely did was shoved him like almost like by the neck, like into the wall. And I was just like yelling in his fucking face. So it's like, yeah, I definitely deserved what I got. I had glass in my hand, I was bleeding and shit. people, because of mob mentality, people were still on my side. But then, especially over the past few years, I was like, yeah, that was really a dick idea. Because I went to like the back of the bar and got it like in the biggest person's face.
Insatiable curiosity.
Well, that comes back to the fight or flight response. You have the same thing. It's just
weird.
Instead of fear, you have like primal aggression.
Somewhat.
So, and while we were on the topic of sleep, I wanted to bring up sleep paralysis.
Oh, that's interesting. Sleep paralysis.
John, we're here once again.
Is very.
I've personally experienced
very
it
interesting.
a handful of times. It's definitely a terrifying experience if you don't know what's going on. So, sleep paralysis is when you wake up while you're in REM sleep. And while you're in that state of sleep, your body releases a hormone which prevents you from moving, effectively paralyzes your entire body.
And if you don't know that that's occurring, that could definitely be a very, very scary experience.
And the reason your body paralyzes yourself while you're sleeping is because while you're dreaming, you'll be thrashing all around the place if you weren't paralyzed.
Exactly.
And people who don't know what that phenomenon is. It's terrifying because you're still dreaming. You can open your eyes and you can't feel your body.
You can look around your room like you're a sentient.
All you can move is your eyes. Mm-hmm. That's it. You can't move your body for like a solid 5 minutes until the hormone dissipates, and you're still visually dreaming.
Right.
So through your eyes, your dream is
visually and mentally. I mean, you're just in this half limbo.
And the more you panic, the more like demonic the dream is gonna become.
Yeah.
So.
And then
I've had trouble.
That almost stems into the realm of like lucid dreaming, which is what I was really heavy into for a while, and I had to force myself to stop. I don't care what you guys have seen in Inception, it doesn't work like that. Totems don't necessarily work along the same guidelines per se, or at least for me, they definitely
lucid
did.
dreaming is
once you know what you're doing, lucid dreaming wise, it is very, very fun. And then once again, I've reached this weird point to where I almost felt like I had done everything I wanted to do. And then things.
Lucid dreaming is a state.
I know what it is. I just like.
So how do you do it?
I need a better understanding because I've heard the term and I've been asked to engage in conversation about it, but I'm curious and I haven't done my research.
Yeah, I got it. So lucid dreaming is No, I went through a really big period with a group of friends where we would practice, writing A on our hands. Because that A won't be there when you're dreaming. So lucid dreaming, or you're trying to force yourself through a physical object, because in a dream you'll fall through it.
Right.
Or even the whole developing a habit to pinch yourself or physically stimulate.
Switching lights,
so
fingers.
Lucid dreaming, there's 2 ways to do it. Activation while you're dreaming, so you become aware of the dream while you're dreaming. Or you can meditate into a lucid dream.
Particularly dangerous in the sleep paralysis side of the spectrum.
Well, the other thing with that is you can also project your body if you believe into it. Astral projection. Essentially the same thing as lucid dreaming, just different procedure.
Very.
So with the lucid dream, you become aware of the dream, and then from that point on, you can control the landscape and the theme or direction of the dream. So it's just your playground, really.
Yeah.
The entire dimension to
Can
yourself.
you do that sober? Because I have a friend, Clayton, who loves doing that with acid, but I never saw the point because acid, you're gonna trip anyways. But
Yeah, you can do it sober. Meditation and reminding yourself periodically throughout the day, I am awake.
Yeah, you gotta.
Or you have to. It has to be daily habits. Like even if you go into a restroom, if you're in your car, just I am awake.
Yeah.
And then snap
and then
or put
snap
your
or have
finger
something you wrote on yourself, because it won't be there in the dream. And if you see yourself, another big thing is to look in a mirror in the dream. You won't be able to see your face. It'll just be a blob.
Where things started to get pretty bad once again was when that, I guess we can say, aggression started to leak more into the dreams because I just got bored. So once again, still keeping a serious tone, but it was almost like thinking of it like Grand Theft Auto. It's like you're not actually going to get arrested because you're playing a game, right? So in these dreams, go out and rob banks, fucking murk people, but your imagination makes it very real. At certain points, it got so bad to where I could lucid dream, but then things started to act like how they would act if I were awake. So, not going that much into detail, but I go out and, like, let's say, shot somebody or, like, stole a car. The cops would actually come and I'd feel myself getting shot.
Yeah, that's another thing with lucid dreaming. Is the pain is real.
Okay.
Yeah. It gets to be really, really bad.
Activate your stimuli. Yeah, stimuli.
It's totally real reception of pain.
Yeah. There was a point where I couldn't break that realm of physics anymore. It was just a second life. Instead of being like, hey, yeah, I'm going to go fly. Like people that are used to or new to lucid dreaming have the ability to, like, it's hard to explain, but when you first know how to lucid dream, you can just spawn things and do whatever you want, and it's very, very fun. But I got to this point, like I said, it's just like I'd sit here, it's like, bottle be gone. Or, like, think about it, and it's still there. Yeah, and then, like, I'd throw it against the wall, and it would actually break. Someone's like, why the fuck did you just throw that? I was like, wait, what? And then that's where, like, sitting in school, I was, like, getting really freaked out, because I was like, no, if I just do something really bad right now, I'm not going to necessarily know if I'm awake or not.
There can be a problem with lucid dreaming because your realities can overlay.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying. For me, at least, that whole totem bullshit from Inception, the whole idea of a totem was like an object or a toy that you'd have in your hand. Like the famous one, the top.
Right? The top, because it'll always keep spinning in the Inception.
Right.
But in real life, it
would topple over, of course, right? So, for me... I just didn't even have that, or like what for me it would be like looking at a mirror or whatever. Yeah. In the dream, it would be very, very, very subtle. So like I go into the bathroom because Willoughby South's bathroom was fucked up at the time. The bathroom mirror would be broken, but in real life the mirror would also be broken.
Oh geez.
You see where that creates an issue there, or like it would be very, very subtle because I wanted things to be to that level of just like at that point in time, just like cool. I'm driving my car to a South game. I want to date so-and-so. Bam, now I'm dating so-and-so. That's cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or like, cool, I can go skate this spot and this spot. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, that feels great. That feels awesome. But like I said, once you get into that point to where like you're sitting in a classroom and you're just like, oh, shit. Like, because with the whole insomnia and experimenting with my own head, I would start to forget when I even went to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to carry around a notebook and open up the notebook and keep down times of when I last looked at a clock. Genuinely looked at a clock. Because when you're in a dream, of course, you don't remember.
The time doesn't even flow in the dream.
Exactly. Well, you're right. One, time doesn't flow in a dream. And once you get inside, or once you get inside the dream, you don't just walk into a dream. You're already doing something.
You're already there. Like it just feels natural.
Right. Like if you're dreaming right now, you just would like appear in a car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I said, with problems sleeping and driving and whatnot, I would wake up fucking driving my car, but in real life driving my car, and I found out that like I sideswiped like a fucking guardrail or something. And then I would just like have to pull over and like I would like call Jake. That's how I honestly got one of the dents inside of that fucking car. But, like, I called Jake. I was like, yo, so I'm pretty sure I'm awake, but I'm also pretty sure that I just fell asleep while driving. Is this actually Jake? And he's like, dude, go to fucking sleep. I was like, wow. All right, I got you. And, like, it's not, like the whole, and it's, like, the same thing with mass media. It's, like, our generation has considered not sleeping, like, cool. It's not. It's, like, a curse. Like, coffee's good, but at the same time, I know my limits. I know the cutoff for that. But even before coffee and energy drinks were introduced, it was definitely this whole, like, just sitting there in the dark and just, like, I am so bored right now. This is so bad. It was very, for me personally, especially hearing everybody else's stories, I find it very unique because either I haven't had these experiences or mine are, like, the complete opposite. Yeah. And I'm genuinely not trying to do this for attention or anything. It's just like, this is very, very weird, very unique.
Sleep deprivation is a serious issue, and I mean,
it takes a giant toll on your body.
You reach a point to where if you're so sleep deprived, it's the equivalent of being drunk.
Well, no, that's just a little sleep deprived.
Especially like your motor skills will get. I mean, not real. Like I mean, like actually like reaching for a bottle. will get like really, really screwed up, or trying to like walk upstairs.
It's definitely more dangerous to drive when you're tired than it is drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
Because you risk, at least when you're drunk, at least maybe not like inebriated, but like like sleep deprivation, you'll just go into, they're called micro sleeps, and you'll just fade in and out of consciousness, and you don't know how much time has passed in between those unconscious periods.
And it's in those weird like dead blackout zones where it's just like I'd sit in my car, pulled over on the road. I was like, okay, did I take my shoes off and then look at my bed? Like, was I looking around my room and was it dark? And try to fathom a memory of that. But it's like, no, that happened 2 days ago. What the fuck did I just do? What did I just do? And the easiest way I was able to snap out of it was to go through my phone and look at the most recent text that I sent.
That's a symptom.
And it was fucking, it was a doozy to break that.
Sounds really intense.
Yeah, that's definitely symptoms of sleep deprivation. Once you hit 2 or 3 days without sleep, your short-term memory totally affected. Every biological function in your body is affected when you go without sleep.
And imagine mixing that, then of course, with my temper, and the shit was just bad. Because
so you had the total opposite effect of anxiety and depression.
Exactly.
Which is interesting.
It just gets I would be very, very short fused and short tempered, and like that would happen like with arguments with my parents. Like, you need to shut up and go to sleep, and then we'd go back around. It's like, well, you need to blah 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 blah, and then there are problems there. Because so and such could be drunk. It's like, what they're saying could be true, but since you're drunk, I don't care if I'm 3 days without sleep. Once again, I'm going down with you, so there we go.
Yeah, whether or not
so it's just it's a downward spiral.
I kind of get that reasoning with my parents, because like they used to lie to me about a lot of stuff. Where'd this go? Where'd that go? Just stupid shit like school books or like new clothes, because they're the crackheads. My dad more so than anything. My mom experiments more with pills. She's got a prescription. That's where I got it. It was her medicine cabinet. But I kind of get that though, because you lie to me like all the time and about money, where this went, where that went. And it's like, well, you tell me what to do, and like even if there was logic in it, I still get this to this day. I can't really talk to him too well. It's like, well, fuck you. You're a crackhead.
Right. It would be the same thing, except put that mold over alcohol. And so that's why it's like, I don't care if we go to a skate park and everybody's drinking. That's cool. That's fine. It's just not what I'm gonna do. Because I do know deep down, if I did ever actually get drunk, that would probably be very, very bad. Geez, a lot of people think that would be funny, but I was like, no. That would be very bad.
Self-loathing would probably be really intense, right?
Negative emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're gonna,
especially depending on who
your
I'm
psyche,
around.
you're gonna
Avery
snap.
wants to channel his true MC Ride.
So I got super wasted before I get.
Oh jeez.
I just killed everyone.
And that was that.
Okay,
and now I'm here.
So I think the general theme of this podcast has gone a little too dark. We need to lighten her back up.
We've been
important topics, though.
No, we're running out of time. It's 10:22.
Mental health thing, like keeping kind of on it. How do you deal with it? What do you do to help with it?
As a closing statement, quick tips on how to ascend from the eternal darkness that we all seem to be in.
The first thing I really started to do, which is still fairly recent, because there are only a limited amount of them. Like, I know when I started doing it. I just started painting every time I started to feel angry, and playing guitar. Just being very, very creative and channeling it all towards making things, which is a large part as to like why this is even here now. Instead of getting pissed off at parents or pissed off at society and this eternal existential crisis that we're forever stuck in. Especially if it's raining outside, it's like, okay, I'm out of watercolor, but I do have coffee, so I'm going to make coffee watercolor paint or something like that. Even if I don't put it on Instagram or whatever, just to keep myself occupied. And once I figured out that like the more I'm off of my phone and off of electronics, the easier it is for me to fall asleep. So I started to do. So I would just come home, turn the phone off, and then what if I like Eric? You got like the beginning of it was you giving me like the Stephen Hawking book. You guys remember how fast I read through that fucking thing?
Yeah.
Because that book like helped me like a lot. I really liked reading that. And then like that, I was figuring out, I was like, I like this book a lot. And then I figured out too that like genuine reading on a real piece of paper was helping me sleep. And then I would want to wake up early and read more about it.
That really has like
So
that really has a science behind, like,
Instead of
the
being
color of the screen too.
That's what I wanted to bring
Yeah,
up.
because we actually had a big discussion about that in my interactive media class. Because like, I'm talking like 3 hours of the day just at a computer, just learning stuff, and like we had a big like discussion on how like the blue and fluorescent lighting of your phone is tricking your mind into it being daytime.
Yeah.
And there's people that have invented apps that'll
like
swap the color scheme of the.
You can do it right
of
on
the
your
phone.
iPhone.
You can do it on
Yep.
your iPhone.
Yeah,
I think now that it's
that'll
10
just
o'clock,
like
my
turn
phone's
it
in that
to
mode.
more. I
Yeah.
forget the name, like a Tuscan.
Yeah,
it's called
to
like
Tuscan
light,
the red
a Tuscan
shift,
light. Yeah.
So you got to move it more towards like red light or yellow,
Right.
because blue is stimulating. It tells your
It's where the warmer
brain
side of the
that
color.
it's daytime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would start to just like paint a lot, and then do more stretches. I'd start to paint a lot, do a lot of stretches and like yoga stuff. So it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm forcing myself to be beneficial, and then the more and more I did that, the more and more it became harder for me to get that angry again. Because once I reached that peak of angry, like I started like shaking. I wouldn't still call that. I'd call that more of the fight or flight sort of thing. Because it was definitely ready to just leap on somebody rather than like run away from it.
Yeah.
But like I said, through like painting, reading and drawing and doing all this stuff, even like I said, well, like not everything has to be a fucking masterpiece. If I have a pen and like a napkin, I'm gonna draw. You know, I don't care if it looks good or not. The point is that I'm not trying to like kill somebody. You know.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like then like little shit. It was very easy to let it go. Just like, yep, okay, so and so's drunk. That's fine. Have a good day. But you did this, and this. I was like, you need to stop yelling. Okay. I remember the one day I finally survived my first argument with a certain somebody in my house who was drunk. I felt like really empowered by it because I was like, wow. Like in the back of my head, I was like, you didn't let yourself lose your cool.
Yeah,
like,
you're
didn't
able
blow
to pat
it.
yourself on the back.
Yeah,
and
like after I read a few chapters in like the book and just like how Stephen Hawking broke a lot of shit down. I was just like, let's view this from a logical standpoint as so and so's ranting to me. I'm just like, how do most of these go south? I was like, well, it normally starts with someone yelling and then me also yelling back. I was like, what if I just use a calming tone and don't be in someone's face? You know what I mean? Like using simple logic. Then like, of course, if you're still coming at me, it was like, okay, look, you need to stop yelling. We'll talk about this later. I'm going into my room. Good night. And then just walking away from the situation.
Yeah.
And then like even my mom started to realize, and so did my brother. They're just like, you're doing way better than before. You know, it's like that's really good. I was like, yeah, like like how you said you genuinely wanted to like see a change in yourself. You have to genuinely like want it.
And people acknowledging those
Right.
efforts made and those differences seen in
Right.
your behavior that acts as a reinforcer for
Validation.
you as well.
Yeah, because you go from acting like a child, basically, and because then I started to just realize too. I was like, wait, there are a lot of people my age that are stuck in this same anger loop, but they don't know how to
People
channel
older
it.
than you.
Yeah,
stuck in that.
yeah. Even
Like, dude, like,
even at work, yeah.
I get in that kind of like state of argument with my parents all the time, mainly because they work so fucking much that they're just like constantly just like, all right, I have to deliver newspapers at 2 a.m. to 4, and then I sleep for an hour, and then I get ready for my next job where I'm going to work 8 hours.
Yeah, see-
And then it's just like they're just like in like, oh man, arguing with my parents is like arguing with the child. It's like literally I have to act so calm, and they're just screaming at me. It's like holy
Remember,
shit.
we got
It'd be better for you in the long run.
all right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, wrap it up a little.
Nick, how do you deal with your depression in general? What do you do to help cope?
To make it nice and quick, one, distractions, and I try to make them productive distractions, you know, when I'm in the right state of mind to exercise that sort of will. I try to exercise and you know,
Skateboarding.
yeah, performing things that are able
course,
to
yeah.
one, distract me from a state of mind that I don't want to find myself falling into, and two, one that can you know, one that I can benefit from, you know, any sort of expressive outlet such as writing music or doing something a little more active like skateboarding, where I'm able to focus and put my mind to something that
Find a
is
goal.
stimulating. Yeah. And it's really helped me.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Like, I've stopped using electronics mostly. Like I stopped watching TV. I like never play video games anymore. I'm barely on my phone. Like I just stopped using electronics, and that's honestly helped a lot. And just doing more creative things instead, like skateboarding, writing, playing music, finding constructive things to do that don't involve electronics, and you can do alone when you don't have other people to interact with. Really helps. Like it's like if you're an introverted person, and you don't want to interact with someone because it tears you down sometimes. Interact with other people, having to like work on that. So like finding things you can do by yourself constructively is a really big thing for me, I guess.
PSA.
So that's you say is like a good way to help cope with this whole depression.
Finding constructive things to do you actually enjoy.
Okay, cool.
What do you?
What do you guys do?
Yeah. Like what does everybody else?
Yeah. What you guys got?
Before we wrap this up.
For me, mostly meditation gets me out of, my ruts. So distractions are just that, distractions. You have to, actually go in and deal with the actual problem instead of, I guess a distraction just kind of side curves it, But, meditation gives you like that stance where you can stand back, you can see these thoughts flowing through. And there's just so much like jitter, like so much unnecessary like stimulation going throughout the day. And I don't know, so
Luke's on the next level.
I mean, it just gives you a whole new perspective on life.
Just kidding.
If I had anything to add, it'd probably just be always work towards a goal and just try to use your most like logical perspective in any given situation. Dude, just always try to strive to do what's best for yourself, and also delete your Facebook and your Instagram.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Do it.
Hell yeah.
It
I swear to
helps.
God, if not just for like a couple days, just do it. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Just fucking throw your phone out the window.
I took advice with because I know Avery like talked to me about that too. It's just like even like finding ways to just like making social media harder for you to get to, because like literally everyone
screen on my phone doesn't make me want to go
because I frequently find myself scrolling through the same Facebook feed
for no reason,
for hours, and nothing changes.
It's like the vicious depression anxiety cycle. It's like I'm just getting sucked into it, like consuming my mind.
Because just like you said, you just want to scroll for no
reason. You just keep scrolling, and then as soon as you get tired of Facebook, you jump to Instagram and you scroll through the same shit.
And it's
just
like
looking for that stimulant to just kind of
I delete it, and it's like
it's
they
never
unplug
there.
me from the fucking Matrix. I just open my eyes. I'm like, oh my god.
Right? No. Yeah.
And then next thing I know, it's like when I get
universal addictive personality.
When I'm getting the fiending for the social media, I'll just like hop on Reddit and read about like scientific articles and stuff.
Reddit.
That's a lie. Everybody's a fiend.
It's typical social media with Reddit. Reddit is beautiful.
Yeah, because
Reddit's fantastic.
The
Not
thing
gonna
with social
lie.
media is it's just like social gratification, like a hierarchy.
Yeah, instead of stimulating social interaction, just go and do actual social interaction.
Yeah, that's another thing. Electronics shield you from actual interactions.
FOMO, the whole fear of missing out.
It's not. I think it's less of FOMO, more like you use your phone as like a clutch. Say you're walking down the sidewalk and you're about to have eye contact with a stranger.
Right.
You pull out your phone so you can avoid that confrontation.
That's
It's so
It
weird.
just cripples you.
I've been
Yeah.
I think for the record, like having to like that whole social idea of having to like talk to strangers.
But
like,
in that moment, you could have met a new friend. And
Once you can
See,
master
I've
stuff
been,
out of
I've
your
been,
comfort
I've been
zone.
seeing something really weird happening too. It's like not even looking at your phone, but like I see a lot of people pretending to have conversations on their phone.
Yeah, because
I'm guilty of it.
so they can
There's so
avoid
many
guilty of
uncomfortable
it.
situations that they're not familiar with.
Right.
Okay,
it's like that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, we gotta wrap this up.
Sam, how have you dealt with your lowest states of mind?
Don't underestimate yourself. Listen to your gut and follow your passion, whatever it is, with everything you got. Just leave no regrets, because you will regret it. That's all I got.
Anything from Joe?
Yeah, can I have the mic?
MC Joe on the mic.
He's just been sitting over here for like an hour just listening.
Joe has worked an entire shift within these two podcasts.
It was a shitty shift too. Anyways, I guess like for me, like I do photography. I try to improve myself, but I don't do it too much because then I get anxiety because I see people who are 10 times better than me and are only like 16.
Just delete your social media.
Yeah, that's
Honestly, yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah, because you start comparing yourself. That shit was scary.
Don't underestimate yourself, man. There's always time to progress.
But also, like, just trying to find distractions, like hanging out with friends, doing shit like this, because, like, I have really bad anxiety on an everyday basis over little things, and just finding distractions just really helps. And if people don't respond, I just delete them because I don't look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you guys say, just as a closing statement, would you say that this podcast has helped in a little way with everyone's anxiety a little bit?
Oh yeah,
I would say so, actually.
I
Because
feel
you
maybe
get to
I've
clear out
gotten
so much
I
on your
feel-
mind.
I feel like I've gotten a lot closer to these people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Definitely feel a lot more relatable to all you guys than like when I first walked in. Like, there's that wall of getting to know somebody, but it's podcast.
Especially you, Sam. I feel like I've seen you in the last like few hours, like totally open up. Like you almost seem a little like parrot out when you started talking. Now it's we're all talking, and it's great. I think
We
it's
love
really
boys.
productive to do things.
Yeah,
like this.
and we are an open group too, so we want to see, you know, we're not prejudiced at all. If you're gay, straight, if you're a female, there's no problem with that, you know. Everybody, not just Willow Boys, just the posse, you know, 440 community, you know. Oh, by the way, next week Mags is coming on with some really cool stuff. Here is one of our closing statements.
No, seriously, guys, like, come on out, come talk to us. Please break the sausage fest.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I got.
The sausage fest.
Thank you guys so much. Any more closing statements while I walk towards the computer?
And I like to break the sausage fest.
We've been doing this for 6 hours. Let's get out of here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
I've never talked so much in my life.
That's a good thing, though.
Well,
You got it.
is it down?
Hold on 1 second.
And we are
Everything can